Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. So we're going on a wee adventure tonight. We're going to find what they call the Buchaney Spout. It's where all the salmon leap, although I don't think they'll be leaping tonight. I think this is the wrong time of the season. But join me and let's see where this journey takes us. Alright, so there's a sign. Buchaney Spout. No diving and no swimming. Well, here's hoping there's no swimming accidentally tonight. So it's quite a overgrown path through the woods into this location by the looks of it. I can hear the water. So if anybody is coming here, don't turn left. Just go straight down the way we were originally going to go until we got nosy. Right. Let me get my bearings and we'll catch up when I'm wherever I'm going to end up. Alright, so I've came to the edge of the water. I've got a life belt behind me just in case, although I'm here on my own. I'll just have to be careful. It should be okay. I'll turn the camera around and you can see where I am. So there's a series of waterfalls cascading down, and if I walk to the edge here, I'll just take my time, just because of my footing, because it's quite sharp. Alright, so this is interesting. So we've got some swirl pools on the corner there, and the river goes up. So this is a River Almond, and if I look back down the way, there's a small set of falls further down, and then that goes under the bridge at Buchaney. So I think we'll start here. Let me get set up and let's see if we can get some nice images tonight. Alright, so the good thing tonight is it's actually quite overcast. So what I've done is I was getting a lot of highlights from the water. So I put an ND6 filter in beside the polarizer, and then that's forced me to increase my shutter speed to a second so I can smoothen out the water. I'm getting a wee bit of highlight clippings in the sky, but I'm just trying to see if I can change that. Yeah, so I'll just pop that to F8. Right, so what I'm doing here is I've got a focal point on the rock in front of me. I've tried to get low as I possibly can here because I want to be able to project the camera and look up the river. And when I look up the river, I want what to try and do is get a flat view but have these small waterfalls in front of me, and that gives me a leading line right up to the edge and the end of the river where I've got all the trees in the background, but the whole river looks as though it's barricaded by a whole bunch of rocks. So I've got a second shutter speed, f11 and ISO 50. I've got the polarizer on and I've got the 0.6 grad filter as well. So what I'll do is I'll move around and take different compositions from different angles from where I am. There's also quite a lot of interesting looking rock pools, but we'll go to them later on. But let me work this area, and then when I do, I'll share those images with you now. So what I've done now is I've turned the camera around, and what I'm trying to do is just shoot over the waterfalls as it starts to cascade down into the big rock right in front of me. But I'm experimenting with my shutter speeds and my f-stop. So my ISO, I've still left at ISO 50. I've got f8 in half a second. But if I want to increase my shutter speed to a second, I then have to put my aperture up to f11 so that I've got that balance, because what I'm shooting for and what my composition's focused around, what my exposure is focused around is to reduce highlights from the water. So we don't have any sun, but we've got clouds. I do have my filters on, but if I make the image too bright, we'll get flashing highlights on the whiteness of the water and there'll be no detail left in it. So what I'm doing tonight is I'm experimenting with a slow shutter speed of about a second, and I'm also using half a second, a quarter of a second, and even an eighth of a second, because what I'm trying to do is use the faster shutter speed so that I can see the lines of the water breaching over the rocks. Anyway, I'll take some more compositions here. I'll do some landscape. I'll try some portrait. And the images that I take here, I'll share with you. I've also got quite an luminous green foreground here with all the mosses on the rocks. So that might make quite a nice leading line. Anyway, I'll share those images with you now. Alright, so I've come over and there's a couple of wee rock pools with some stones in them. I've come to a level where I'm hoping that with the polarizer it's taken the diffusion and the highlights off the water. However, the sun's peeking through the trees, so we've actually got sun now, which actually has lit up the forest on that side, so I could use that later on. What I'm going to do though is just going to raise the tripod. Right, so I've got higher elevation above the rock pools. Could make quite a nice little pattern. So what I've done here is, because I've been shooting at a kind of half a second, an eighth of a second and a second shutter speed, because this was quite dark, and there's the sun away now, because this was dark, I've increased my shutter speed to 2 seconds. And the reason I've done that is I still want f11 and ISO 50, but I want f11 because I can get the detail. So I'll take another shot, and then what we can then do is I can either use the whole image or split the image up into two halves and put them into a square crop. I could even potentially use a diagonal crop, and I'll share those images with you now. Alright, so right, this is going to be quite tricky. So what I've seen as I'm walking past, I've got the water flowing down at the start of this top of the waterfall, but what I'm getting down the bottom, it's like every 2 or 3 seconds I'm getting a swishy water coming over, and it's really quite nice. But the challenge is my timing. So I'm going to have to focus on that little rock in front of me in the hope that I catch a swish coming over, because what I've done is I've reduced my shutter speed. I've speeded up my shutter speed to a quarter of a second because I just want streaks of water. I don't want it too milky. And then I've got the top rock on the top right hand side and I'm getting water flowing over there. So I've done a couple of areas where, because I'm quite close and I know I'm still F8, I'm going to take a focal point here and a focal point on the faraway rock. I'll do a couple of close-ups. I'll turn it round into portrait to see if that makes it into quite an interesting shot, because there's a rock in front of me and that might be an interesting foreground and a leading line up past the falls. So I'll take a few more shots here and I'll share those images with you now. Alright, so what I have here is I've got two big rock pools in front of me, and I've got the river cascading down from the falls past this big huge rock, and then the falls drop again. So what I might do is I might do a panoramic shot here, and what I'll do is I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 shots, and then what I'll do is I'll stitch them together and I'll share that image with you now. Alright, so what I learned a wee trick recently, and it was how you take long exposure shots with your iPhone. So what I've got is I've got my iPhone here. I'm taking the shot of the falls. I'm just at 1x zoom. I'll take the shot, and then what you do is you put your finger on the image, you select live view, and you press long exposure, and that actually gives you quite a nice long exposure shot. So if you're ever out and you don't have a camera and you've got your phone, it's really easy to do, and give it a try. You get some cracking shots. I've done some intentional camera movement images with it when I was recently in London, and I took a photograph of a bus, set it to long exposure, and then you got that blurred out effect, which we call ICM, or intentional camera movement. So again, if you've got an iPhone with you, you can be creative with your iPhone and you get some cracking images. So if those images work out, I'll share those 2 shots with you just now. What I want to try and do here is get that big rock with the water cascading round it. Let me zoom out. Right, I'll just set up my composition here. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is capture the water at this angle, coming round the edge of that rock into the gully and then flowing out through my camera. So I'm going to do a portrait shot here, and then what I'll do is I'll turn the camera around, flip it over into landscape, and I'll try and get a wider shot, so I've caught the falls coming down from the top to the rock and then flowing out of image on the right hand side. So that's the plan, and if it works, I'll share those images with you now. Alright, so we have quite a special wee place here. Well, I haven't said it's a special wee place. I really hope these images turn out. So what have I got round about me? I'm just holding on to my tripod because I'm quite close to the edge. So I've got a number of different images here. I've got the water coming down with a big boulder in front of me. I've then got, there's 3 big rocks caught up in one of the carved out sections of the wall over there. That could make quite a nice image. I've got the water flowing over these rocks immediately in front of me. I've got the water flowing over those rocks, and it's causing like a little swirl pool just in front of me, and that could make quite a nice long exposure. And then the wee jewel in the crown, and I really hope these turn out, is there's a cascade of water coming down off the rock over there, and there's 2 trickles of water coming into a kind of convex carve out shape of the rock, and it's like 2 miniature little waterfalls, and it looks really, really nice. But on top of the rocks there's a little pool of water that's full of reflections, and it's that water that's flowing down over the rock into the river. So what I'm going to try and attempt is take a number of these compositions and take 2 or 3 shots. I'll get closer to that little waterfall cut out there. I'll take those shots and I'll share those images with you now. I've climbed up over the rocks, so I'm going to take a shot down the river, because what I've got in front of me is the bridge, the road bridge going over the river, and I'm just checking I do have it in the image, not that we can see it very well. However, what I've tried to do here is I've set a 2.5 second shutter speed f16 and ISO 100 because I want to get some swirls and streaky marks of the foam that's going through the river. So I'm just going to stand here. It's okay, I'm going to be careful. I'm just checking. So there's swirls. I'll turn the camera around to landscape. So there's some swirls in front of me, and what I've also got, which is quite nice, is there's some fallen leaves on the side of the rocks over here. So if I focus on the leaves, let the camera run for 2.5 seconds, oh yeah, so we're getting some nice swirl marks. I think because that's darker in there, I could get away with upping my shutter speed to 4 seconds. Oh, there's some nice wee like whirlpool effects in the water as well. Right, let's try and increase the shutter speed to 6 seconds. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll take a couple of shots here and I'll share those images with you now. Alright, oh boy, I'll just show you what I've climbed down. I've climbed all the way up those trees up the top, slid half the way down. It's absolutely treacherous, but look at that view. Wow, this is absolutely glorious. So this must be the bottom of the falls, closer to the bridge. Look how white that water is, it's absolutely stunning. So because I'm low down, I'm going to get quite a nice, hopefully a reflection of the river here, because it's quite calm until it hits the water. And then over here, there's some rocks, so I could potentially work my way very carefully, but not too far over there, so I can get a 3/4 shot over to the falls. So we'll give it a try, and I'll catch up with you soon. Alright, so I'm just standing on the rocks here. Right, so I'm going to zoom in into the kind of canyony view in front of me, because what I'm keen to do, there's some really nice rocks on the far right hand side, and there's a tree coming down and sweeping up on my left hand side. So it's quite dark down here. So what I'm doing is I'm upping my ISO. So I'm still shooting at 1/2 second, I've got f9, but I'm now shooting at ISO 400. So, right, I'm going to take a couple of wide shots here, and then what I'll also do is I'm going to focus in on the falls here, because that water is absolutely beautiful. It's really, really bright white. And I'm just going to try the same settings just to see if I get highlight clippings. I do. Right, so I'm going to reduce my ISO to 200. I'll still keep half a second f9, and my ISO 200's bang on. So I'm getting beautiful colour in the water. I'm just checking. Yep, absolutely beautiful colour in the water. And then what there's also facing me in front is there's this main waterfall coming through, which looks like a wee breached wall, and then on the far side there's a second waterfall. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and isolate the two falls, and I'll take shots of this, the main fall, because there's a nice rock in front of it, and that could make quite a nice balance to my image for the composition. And then what I'll then do is I'll zoom in as far as I can to the remote falls, the furthest away falls, and we'll see what images we get here. I'll swing the camera around and I'll get a shot of this rock in front of me with the waterfall in front of it. The only thing is the trees are getting blown by the wind, so because I'm using a slow shutter speed, they'll be kind of soft in the image, but that's okay because that might help frame the image. So what I'll do is I'll get these images taken, and I'll then look further down and see if it's safe to walk down there, and I'll share these images with you now. Alright, so I've worked my way around to the edge. This is as far as I can go actually. It's actually quite a lot of deep pockets, even if I wouldn't have used my wellies here because it's far too slippy. Right, so what I'm going to do is get as front on as I possibly can with these falls, and I'll zoom in as well so that I've got different compositions with the falls here. I'm going to shoot back up into the kind of gully in front of me, and I'll progressively come back, and I'll have 3 or 4 different shots because the camera's pretty level with the water and there's a nice glow in the trees in the background. I'm going to turn the camera around to portrait mode, and I'm going to shoot that rock in front of me with the greenery and hopefully get this small waterfall in front of me. And then I'm just checking my footing so I don't fall. So the other big change to my settings where I am, I've had to increase my ISO to ISO 400 because it's really dark and I'm losing the light in the sky as well. So what I'll do is, there's some nice views downriver, but what I'll do is I'll take my time, I'll take 3 or 4 or maybe more images, and I'll share those images with you now. Alright, so I hope you like those images. I think we'll call it a night. There's only so far I can go and I can't get any further downriver. But it's an interesting place. It would be really good to be here when the salmon are leaping, because there's 2 or 3 small waterfalls before it gets to the top that you could probably catch the salmon, so that would be quite nice. Anyway, here's hoping we can make a video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that'll let you know the next time I post a video. So thanks very much for watching, and here's to the next video.